welcome back to First Levels. Now, we all recognize this game, don't we? Or at least we can tell what it is. Title screen, Legend of Zelda. Now, this was the game that did in fact start it all from the Zelda series. As you can see, we've come a long way, haven't we? Okay, I'll take your wooden sword, you crazy old bastard. Okay, we have a weapon, we have a shield, and we have a dungeon to go clear. Now this game is a little bit of a stretch for the series because there really aren't levels in the Legend of Zelda series. It's all a quasi-open world where you can wander around, you find dungeons, and you clear them. So what I consider the first level of this game is to be the first dungeon. So we're going to go make our way directly there. Ordinarily, I'd expect the person to be wandering around a little while before they found the first dungeon. But we're just going to go straight there now. Oh, wow. Looking at this game, I mean, I loved this game when I was a kid. I spent countless hours playing it. But now I'm looking at it now. And after I'd played it, the controls are a little screwy, but I mean, I still like it. I mean, I'm never going to do an LP for this game or anything like that, but it's definitely worth playing through every once in a while. Here we are, we've reached level 1. And a lot of people call this the Eagle Dungeon, because the map, when we eventually see it, has some resemblance to an eagle. And there are, in every dungeon from the Legend of Zelda, in the game Legend of Zelda, and it was pretty much a feature that happened in all of the games, was every dungeon you went to had one new item you could go pick up, one new piece of equipment. This dungeon actually has 2. So let's go find our 2 items. That one skeleton had a key inside of it. I guess it's a rib cage or something. So now we have 2 keys. The dungeons basically involve you killing enemies, finding keys, unlocking doors, finding secret passageways, finding your special item, and then killing the dragon at the end and snatching up a piece of the Triforce. I'm not quite sure we need to actually kill all these monsters. Oh, the clock. Once you hit the stopwatch, all the enemies freeze for a short period of time, allowing you to just wander around and stab things. Of course, we're stabbing with a wooden sword, so it's probably not hurting them too much. But all the enemies in the beginning of the game are pretty weak anyway, so it's not too big of a deal. Okay, no point in killing all these, just move through the door. There are some rooms where you actually will need to kill all the enemies, like in this room. You have to kill all these little Hershey's Kiss enemies in order to be able to push that thing to the side and access the secret room. Okay, now that is a clue on where to find something later on in the game. It's not going to factor into our episode here. I'm not going to be playing the game for that long. It wasn't really necessary to go in that room. Is that a cracker? No, that's a map. Now you see a little bit of an eagle shape to the map. With a skeleton with a key in its ribcage. We're down to our last heart of life, so we're hearing that irritating beeping sound. Oh, these guys have boomerangs. And the key. In this room, we had to kill all of the enemies in order to gain the key. Okay. Here's a secret passageway. That will take us to our main prize for the level, for the dungeon. It's the bow. Now, if I remember correctly, it isn't actually possible to use the bow right now. We don't have arrows. But eventually, once we get arrows, it'll cost us 1 ruby or 1 stone or whatever the hell those things are supposed to be in order to fire an arrow. So therefore, it wasn't something that I used very often. I would much rather have full hearts and I can use our little blade beam attack or whatever it's called. When you have all full health in this game, you throw your sword forward and it shoots out like a shadow of it. We saw it happen earlier when I had full health. Open the stupid door. Okay, now, even though it's not absolutely necessary, I advise it that you go and you kill these enemies, because, well, what happens when you kill all of them? Something awesome happens. What's that? An orange peel? Oh, it's a boomerang. The idea of the boomerang is primarily to retrieve items, so Link doesn't have to run all the way over to them to get stuff. But it can also be used to stun enemies who smack it with a boomerang. I guess it would stop them for a second. It also has the secondary effect that it can kill weaker enemies like bats upon contact. Now here is the dragon boss at the end of the first dungeon. Not too difficult, just run up and stab it, back off so you can avoid its fireballs. If you have bombs, which is possible to get at this point in the game, just drop a couple of bombs in front of it and it dies real quick. Bingo! Now we get our heart, increase our maximum health, and ooh, it's a piece of the Triforce. And that's it for Legend of Zelda. But what do we have here? Zelda 2, The Adventures of Link. Yeah, that was something that was a little bit confusing with the first game. They called it The Legend of Zelda, but in reality you did not play a character named Zelda. You played a character named Link. So here it's become a little more obvious. Now you see a big difference between this game and the first game. This one, we are not doing a... Well, in this case, you'll see the top-down, but for the most part the game's going to take place from a side-scrolling perspective. And, well, you can see his little sword beam is happening here, but it doesn't stretch all the way across the screen, and mostly you're going to be running, jumping over top of enemies, and stabbing them with a sword. So this game adopts a little more of a kind of... a little more of like an action RPG kind of thing. You can level up, get hit by invisible enemies. That's frustrating, I'll tell you what. I really didn't like this game. Not nearly as much as I like the other Zelda games. I just did not care for this combination of gameplay elements, this side-scrolling stuff. It just didn't strike me as being as good. In fact, I don't think anybody would really consider this to be a very good game if it didn't have the Zelda name attached to it. Now, this is actually the first dungeon, but honestly, you're going to see that I didn't make it all the way through for the purposes of this episode. But, I mean, you pretty much get the idea, don't you? Now, the dungeons can be very similar to what they were in the original Zelda, with the respect that you're basically moving from room to room, killing enemies, collecting keys to unlock doors, and moving on, which is a pretty common thing for games at the time. In fact, you still see some games that the dungeons or levels that you're going through require you to do pretty much the same thing. Jump over it. Nope. Got killed. Hey, let's move on. Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Yes, now this was the entry of the Legend of Zelda series for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System in either 91 or 92. I guess there are different versions of the game. Ooh, look, backstory. Where the hell are you going? He's going to go save the Princess Zelda. And we're going to have to go and follow him immediately, even though he told us not to follow him. So that's a bit of a pain in the butt. Now, this is the first Zelda game in the series which actually provided its own backstory in the game itself, not requiring you to go and read manuals or anything like that. And this is, well, I'd have to say this is probably one of my favorite of the Zelda series here. Being the first one, I actually think the only one for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. But I mean, you can see how drastically better it is than the first two. Not just graphically, but you're going to see the gameplay elements. I mean, you're seeing Link picking things up, moving from side to side. There are characters to speak to, which there were characters to speak to in Zelda 2. But I didn't show them to you. But the way it restricts areas of the maps is much better. Because in, say, the first game, you were, for the most part, you had free run of the world, but you, for the most part, just weren't able to get down to specific dungeons or something until you required a certain power, like the ability to carry bombs, the torch, magic wand, raft, whatever, stuff like that. And this one has that kind of open world feel. The world is probably a little smaller overall, but it makes it feel larger, because your ability to get from one place to the other is dependent on what abilities you possess, like the ability to pick up stones, the ability to pick up larger stones, the ability to pick up the dark stones. I know that's kind of all seems to be the same thing. The ability to light torches, all that kind of stuff. And where we are right now, a good decent portion of this dungeon takes place on the overworld of the map. Now we're heading inside, and instead of going into a dungeon, we're in a nice castle. Castle, what the hell's that? A nice castle. And there are a bunch of psychotic guards that want to kill us. Now the backstory to this involves kind of a retelling of the whole Legend of Zelda series. I'm not entirely sure how all the games sort of fit together, but I think they're sort of like similar to the way the Breath of Fire series does it, where all the games are related to each other, and they may all exist in the same universe, but there may be different Links and different Zeldas and stuff. But in this case, I think chronologically, this is the first game in the series. What had happened was, a long time ago, a series of 3 goddesses went and created the world, and then created another world called the Golden Land, and left a small piece of their power behind in the form of the Triforce. 3 triangles which had the magic power and all that kind of crap. And the Golden Land was a place that would sort of expose what kind of person you are. Kind of a, if you were a bad person, you turn into a monster. If you're a good person, you turn into a pleasant little creature like a bunny rabbit. Well, this leader of a band of thieves named Ganondorf went and, he found his way into the Golden Land, picked up the Triforce, and gained all its power, and turned the Golden Land into this crazy thing called the Dark World. Well, that didn't sit too well with the rest of the world, and he used his power to try and take over Hyrule. So these 7 wise men used some magical power they had to go and seal the gate between the Dark World and Hyrule, and that basically sealed Ganon up and left him unable to do anything. Now this is, I guess, dozens or hundreds of years later or something like that. The seal started to weaken because this sorcerer came around named Agnam or something like that. He came in and started breaking the seals. He also sort of deposed the king and took control of the castle, and has imprisoned all the descendants of the wise men. And as soon as he goes and seals the descendants in these little crystals, then the seal will be completely broken, and the evil will be allowed to flow from the Dark World into Hyrule. Well, Zelda is the last of these descendants that Agnam needs to go and seal away in the crystals. And Link heard her call out to him, and he's going to try and rescue her before he has a chance to go and sort of imprison her. That's her right there. That's Zelda right there. This thing is sort of, I guess, you can consider to be the boss of the dungeon. It's a fairly common enemy that you're going to see later on, but it holds the key that we need to unlock the cellar right now. Let's go talk to Zelda. Okay, we've rescued Zelda, and we're going to have to go and bring her out of the castle. Now, Zelda is in fact a character that has existed in all of the other Legend of Zelda games, as you expect from her name being in the title, but this is the one where she has had the largest effect, and it's actually the earliest that she's going to be important. I mean, the first Legend of Zelda game, you didn't see her until the end of the game, the very end. You rescued her out of the 8th dungeon. The second game, that was actually her, I believe, lying down on the bed behind Link when he left Alpha on his journey. But you're not going to see her after that. This is the first game, like, oh, here she is, we've rescued her immediately. First thing we do is we break out of our little house, go into the castle, and rescue her. And a lot of the game is going to revolve around, at least the early game is going to revolve around trying to keep her safe and trying to prevent the sorcerer from breaking the seal on the Dark World. Now, we're not going to be able to escape out the front door the way that Link came in, because remember, he fell down a hole. You can't just climb back out of that. So let's go and escape a different way. Fortunately, Zelda knows how to do that. Apparently all these old castles had weird little passageways, allowing people to escape. Now, from what I understand, historically that's at least partially accurate, because a lot of old castles did have weird little passageways to escape because kings or lords or whoever the hell they were always feared a possible uprising by their servants and decided, like, you know what, we're going to have to go get the hell out of here in a hurry if shit goes to hell. So let's have some passageway to get out if they decide to kill us. Okay, just push this thing out of the way, and we're going to go down into the dark tunnels. We can escape that way. Now, if you leave the door open, I imagine whoever's chasing you is going to follow you into here. Here's another little thing that I thought was cool about this game. The ability to light areas. Now, this isn't real-time lighting in the way that we'd understand it nowadays, but it was pretty cool at the time that you would light your environment through some action of the character. Now, in a dark room, we've seen it before, and Link will walk around holding a torch up and it'll light the area out in front of him. And that kind of thing has existed in games for years before this game. But I do like this idea of lighting torches to light your area, even if it is somewhat frustrating because the torches don't stay lit for too long. That will go out and it'll be dark in here again. Snakes! No, don't have the key. Gotta go get it out of, there we go. It's a good thing the key to the locked door is kept in a chest within that room. Because, you know, that makes sense. Very close to Sanctuary. Sanctuary with a capital letter, so that is the title of the place we're going to. It's called Sanctuary. That's a little weird. You can see a lot of the other things about this game are similar. You have bombs, you have arrows, you have keys, you have hearts representing life, and it is sort of top-down view that we've seen in the first Legend of Zelda game. So that really hasn't changed, but there is a whole lot more about this game that's better. Aside from the fact that you have access to both Hyrule and the Dark World, essentially doubling the size of the map. But Hyrule portion, the Dark World, is a much more difficult place. The enemies are more powerful. It requires a new set of abilities to get from one place on the map to the other. And that was something I thought was awesome too. Kind of mirroring the concept within the first Zelda game, because after you beat The Legend of Zelda, the first NES game, you had the option of running through the entire game again, within like a kind of alternate version of the world where the dungeons were scrambled around and the enemies were tougher and the items were in different places. Basically like making the game twice as big, although going into the Dark World is part of your original playthrough of the game. Okay, we're gonna have to go speak to the Elder and try and find the Master Sword so we can defeat the wizard and stop him from breaking the seals, but unfortunately that's not happening in this show. So thanks for watching and goodbye.